All right, how's everyone doing? I'm Rich CELENZA. Thanks for tuning into the Rich CELENZA Show. WTF are you talking about? So the one thing I want to get into today is goals. And I know we hear all this shit all the time from tons of different people, online, experts on setting goals, on obviously you having to realize what your goals are and how to implement your goals and all these type of things. Which I understand. Obviously, you have to always have some type of idea of where you want to go. But I think where the one component missing a lot of times is, regardless what your goals are or not, you have to figure out if they, how would I say this? Not that they're, I don't care if they're realistic or not. How do you plan on getting to that goal? Because a goal, again, is kind of like a dream, right? In my opinion. So it could be like, and it could be even something simple. So I'll just use, for example, I want to create a program. I had this program, Mastering Self-Confidence, the blueprint to helping men find the woman of their dreams, even if they've been through a bad breakup or divorce. Now, after I read this book on ClickFunnels, I read 2 books actually on it, and I said, yeah, this should take me a couple months. So I'm writing down all my goals on how I want to, basically how I'm going to create this program, all the information I'm going to need, how I'm going to create the lessons, how I'm going to create every aspect of it, the videos I want to incorporate with it, the audio with it, how I'm going to incorporate YouTube, the podcast, all these different things. So you write down all these goals, like a lot of people do. And for one, I think what's kind of full of shit with goals is a lot of times we have no idea really how long they're going to take. And I think one of the reasons why is because we don't truly come up with a game plan. Now, I had a game plan because I've done so many different things regarding making films, obviously just many different things, writing books throughout my life, creating a clothing line, all these different things. I don't have to get into what I did. But the one thing I realized a lot of times is how much longer it usually takes than I thought. And that could even be like I didn't just start about a few years ago. I started working on my own app that I thought was going to take a year. I'm on 3 years. I'm still not done with that son of a bitch. And again, I had the goals. I never stopped going for it. I put a plan together how to take action and go for it and all these things. But here's the thing about life and goals. You really don't know what else is coming at you. Because a lot of times when you set a goal up, you don't really know what it's going to take to get there. And that could even be physically. If you have physical goals to say, you know what, I want to run a 6-minute mile, or I want to lift this amount of weight. You're not thinking, hey, I may get injured. Hey, you may be thinking, this is going to come into my life, or I got a new job, or I got sick, or whatever the case may be. So, the one thing I want to go through on this podcast is truly coming up with a game plan, right, when you do set goals. But here's the thing. I think the less goals, instead of, I hear all these things too, where write down all your goals for the rest of your life that you want to do. And do this and do that, like all these things. Like, listen, focus and narrow down. This is the one thing I always had, and I still have a problem with it, because I'm always trying to do multiple things. Just like I was saying, I'm doing the app and then I'm doing a program. Or I would be making a film, which a lot of people do, and then I'm writing 2 other screenplays. I couldn't stay focused. And I definitely couldn't stay always focused on, I'd have too many goals. That was my thing, and I think a lot of people go through that because we get caught up with everyone's like, write down all your goals that you want to do. What I found really weird is, as time went on, all those goals a lot of them start changing, and they evolving into different things. Like, wow, I thought I wanted to do this. Now I really don't, but now I feel bad because I've been that's been a goal for my whole life, or for a certain amount of time, that's all I thought I wanted to do, or that's what I thought I really needed to make myself complete, or that's something I always dreamt of doing, I just never did it. But you have to also be flexible with your goals and realize, hey, this isn't working, or maybe this is something I'm not actually interested in. Does that mean everything I've worked up until that point I failed, or I look like a quitter? I don't believe that at all. I think people need to understand with goals, you're evolving, right, all the time. Now, I talked about this before. It's kind of like life with goals, as far as that I see. It's like a football game, and you're on the offense, right? And you have these certain things that you want to achieve. So you're always going after them, and defensively, everything is preventing you from getting them for some reason or another, which could be finances, because a lot of people, if you have a lot of money, you most likely would get your goals. So a lot of that's financial. It could be many different things. It could be the location you live at. It could be a lot of things. But one thing I think that paralyzes a lot of people is their intelligence. And I hate to say that. It goes for me. I used to go for honesty. I'm kind of dumb, but I'm smart enough to know how dumb I am, which people used to laugh at that. But I think there's some truth to that with me is a lot of people don't want to educate themselves enough to realize how to get that goal, or if that goal is truly for them. Because a lot of people I know are like, I want to be rich. And I tell people all the time, most people don't know the stress that it takes to getting rich, how much hard work for the most part. Now, that doesn't mean some people can get rich very easily. Some people are extremely intelligent, or they were born in the wealth. Everybody takes their own route. So I'm not going to sit here and say I know what it is, or I'm going to sit here and tell you like every aspect of what somebody who's gotten rich or who's trying to get rich. That's ridiculous. But the truth is, most people aren't rich because they haven't figured out really what, I think to a certain point, what their strengths are and how to make money off their strengths. I mean, that's just kind of obvious. And as you look into the world, there's multimillionaires everywhere around you. They just found a niche. They found what works for them and how they can make money off their strengths. Not everybody, for the most part, And they also learned how to make money off other people and how to kind of manipulate it where people are working for them to help them make more money, right? And you may or may not work for other people, or you may have your own company. You just may not be a millionaire, or maybe you are a millionaire. That's a whole different thing. But my point back to offense and defense kind of a little bit with football is defense, no matter what in your life, is kind of always coming at you. But if you have a true game plan, but here's the thing, the game plan can change from literally day to day, minute to minute, I think a lot of times, especially with the economy. As far as investments go, you may think, hey, I want to own properties in this area, hypothetically, and then that's going to make me rich if I buy this, I rent, or I Airbnb, or all these things. And then all of a sudden, something comes into play where the economy changes, or something becomes illegal, or that area just something happens. It could be catastrophic, like a hurricane comes. I don't know. But those are the things, like defensively, you have to kind of be aware that if something happens, you need to be able to maneuver. It's like a backup on top of your goal. It's like a backup goal regarding your goal. That famous actress, I can't remember her name, she was in the show Taxi. She has that photographic memory. And I think she was the one who always said, you have to have a backup. And then I think she said a backup on the backup. And a lot of people are like, no, if you want something, the only thing you could focus in on a lot of times is just that one thing. And if that works for you, great. But I think her idea of having a backup sometimes is pretty brilliant. Because you have to, a lot of times, have a backup plan in your life regarding your goal or what you're setting out to do. Because a lot of times when you get to the point where you may be actually about to accomplish your goal, it may not be what you thought it was. It may not give you the results you thought it was going to give you, because I think a lot of us, for the most part, are wrong more than we're right in our life. If we were always right, or even 50-50, I think a lot of us would be a lot more successful than we are. But we don't want to acknowledge a lot of decisions we have made over the years, or a lot of them that we're making, aren't really taking us to where we thought they would take us, right? A lot of times you may have even bought property and said, oh, when I sell this in X amount of years, I'm going to make this amount of money. And then you get down to it, you really didn't make nearly as much money. You actually may have lost money, or you put a lot of money into something, you didn't get a return on it. You worked really hard on something, you thought at work you're going to get maybe something out of it, as far as maybe getting bumped up, maybe a pace, higher pay scale, different position, didn't happen. All these different things, right? So the point here with what I'm trying to say is, when you're setting yourself out to get things accomplished, I guess you could say, and you could call them goals or whatever you want, it's almost like you have to have a true diagram on how you plan on getting those done, and it's really got to work specifically for you. Because I don't care who you're listening to, what guru, what mentor, what coach, what consulting guy or woman or whatever they're doing, a lot of them have great knowledge. Now we say absorb all that knowledge, absorb it all. But a lot of times, just because if you took their exact path for the most part that they took, most likely it is not going to lead you to the exact same results. A lot of times, not even close. You are different people. Now, a lot of times you can emulate them and get results that are successful. I'm not going to say that. It's not going to happen. But a lot of times you got to realize they were a different person. They have a different education or knowledge of a lot of things that you have, or that they have that you don't, and vice versa. You may have certain knowledges or certain knowledge that they don't have. So it kind of works both ways, but you both live, no matter who you are, entirely different lives. So you have to have a realistic kind of approach when reading, listening, going to conventions, I should have said seminars at conventions, or just going to seminars in general, because I go to tons of those things and I'm listening to these people. And again, I don't want to be an asshole, but a lot of times I'm like, first of all, I think a lot of what people are pitching is a lot of bullshit, because we all learn things at a different pace, like I said, and we all have different types of knowledge. And every situation we end up in, we're probably not going to make the same decision somebody else made. And also, a lot of times when someone's telling you, yeah, this worked for me, or this worked for me, even real estate, like, oh, I went and bought this house and I flipped it and I made 150 grand, and you're like, oh shit, I got to go buy one. You go buy one. Well, when they did that, was a different time and place. You may be even off a month. Same with the stock market. Well, if you do this at the stock market and you do this, again, I'm not saying that you can't succeed doing that, but a lot of people have done a lot of things. I mean, I'm not talking about Buffett and these guys. I mean, those guys are geniuses. I'm talking about average Joes or people writing books on all these different things. It kind of reminds me of gamblers. Like, if you really go back and look on ESPN, I don't care if it's Fox News, look, they're giving you all their input, and all they do is study sports. And they're trying to tell you who they think's going to win. Go back and look. They pick probably more losers than winners. And that's even without the spread. So how knowledgeable really are they? Probably not as knowledgeable as you think. They may have knowledge as far as talking shit about teams and players. You could probably do that, and so can a lot of us. But if they're actually that successful at what they do a lot of times, I don't even think they'd have to work. But actually, they're good at talking about sports. That doesn't mean they're great at picking sports, because I think most people aren't. And I think that's the same with the stock market, to be honest with you. Way more people are losing their ass than making it. And even the ones that come out and say they made it, again, they may tell you what worked for them. Again, you don't have their knowledge. You may not even have the balls they have. You may not have been born into it. You may not have the contacts they have. You don't know the inside shit going on. All those things are a reality, right? So you have to think about all those things. And I hate to say this, and I realize this in my life. A lot of times when you, and this throws me into this category as well, by the time I figure out something's good, as far as I'll just throw this in like a money-making type situation, by the time it hits me, probably, obviously thousands of other people know this as well. And you're kind of late in the game, right? I think the one thing we're missing a lot of times is us really separating ourselves and really just figuring out what we want specifically and going after it and just staying, again, focused, not always flip-flopping. Because I see this with a lot of my friends or a lot of other people, whatever they think the market's hot here in this area, regardless if it's stocks, real estate, whatever the case may be, they kind of jump on it. And they always seem to be late. They're not really on top of it, right? You really got to, I think, but the more successful people I've seen, they kind of just stay focused in on one thing consistently, I would say. So even if it's I don't care what business it is, you kind of stay in it and you kind of fight through it. And again, you're flexible, but you're consistent with it. It seems like inconsistency a lot of times is what I think destroys a lot of us, in my opinion. So that's something else besides, like I was saying, you have kind of a backup plan. But the guys, and there's tons of them out there that are always, I'm not saying they're looking for money-making schemes, but tons of people out there that are always like, hey, this is the new hot thing, let's invest, let's do this, or let's do that, or my goal is to do this, or is to do that. And I was just having a discussion about this too, is if you have certain goals, though, your goals don't always have to be money-orientated. And this goes for a lot of artists. I know what happens with a lot of us, and it happens to me, and I know a lot of people, I don't care if they become in the film industry, I don't care if they're in the fashion industry or whatever type of industry, they a lot of times went into a certain industry because they thought they can make money off things they love, which is wonderful. But a lot of them don't succeed and make money, and they think they're a failure. And this could go for anyone trying to do anything or trying to accomplish a goal. And the truth is, you're not failing, you're learning, all right? And it's hard. It really is hard to create things that people want for you to make money off of, right? I mean, it is not easy. If it was that easy, everybody would be loaded. But you got to look at yourself too. And I talk about this when I created my own clothing line that I thought sore loser wear. It's a clothing line for people who hate to lose. Doesn't matter if you want to lose as long as you come in first. I had all these taglines and I thought everybody would think it's kind of cool and all these different things. But what I realized is, including myself, if you think about yourself as far as clothing goes, one is how much money do you spend on clothing? Two is a brand. It's not easy to break people off of their brands that they love and that they've been using for years and then spend money on yours. And that goes for me as well. So that is something I had to learn the hard way, because I was thinking, oh, if I do this, if I, these type of branding, and if I have these photos and these slogans, it's all going to work out and everyone's going to love it. I had tons of people loving it. At least I thought I did. I got great feedback. Does that mean they're going to spend their money on it? No. Right? So those are things that I had to learn, that I think sometimes when you're creating things, you're going after your goals as far as, how would I say this? If you have certain goals, don't always get caught up with that they have to make money. Now, if you're buying real estate or you're taking loans out, yes. But if you have ideas that you just want to create, and you hear these guys, like the guy from Amazon, I don't care if it's Steve Jobs, you hear them in their garages and things starting. I think what happened with a lot of them, and I may be wrong, obviously they may have thought it was going to become huge, which I think a lot of people do, but they started really from the concept of, I'm creating something that I truly love, and I'm going to stick with it regardless if it's successful or not, but I'm just doing it for the sake of loving what I'm doing. And I just had a discussion, like I said, about that, because I had someone who was always coming up with a lot of great ideas, which I think are amazing. And I used to be one of these guys too, where I always thought every idea I had, like even every screenplay I wrote now has to be marketable, and it's got to be this demographic, and it's got to be able to raise this type of funding, and it's got to get all these, it's got this component, and it could attach maybe this star. It had all these different things where it like exhausted me. So if you're passionate about something, or you have goals too, or if you want to create new goals, don't always just base your goals, is what I should say, on financial, thinking they're going to be a financial success. And I did that with my app, and it was interesting. I'm like, I don't care if I make a ton of money on this or not. I wanted to create an app. It's called a year-round to help people in a time of need. I'm going to spend my own money on it. But what I realized after 2 years, I had actually somebody take it and try to steal it from me. And then I've had some problems with creating it with app developers, just taking a lot more time than I thought. But what was interesting about when I went in with that mindset was I was also doing my program. So I kind of swayed more towards my program, but I wasn't upset with my year-round. I'm not saying it was a hobby. It was still a goal, and I still want to accomplish it. But I didn't go in there with saying, oh my God, I got to make money on this app. I already invested this amount of money. I need to get this back. And if I do this, it'll, all these, if I'm going to market it, how much am I going to spend? Like all these different things. And I get, if you're a business person, that's, you have to focus in on those things. But sometimes you may just need an escape to do something for fun, or have a goal that's not so kind of driven to the point where it kind of exhausts you and kind of takes the fun out of it. It's almost like, I kind of call it like going on a vacation. Like when I go on a vacation, I travel so much, everything's really structured. So I have to be in all these different cities and states, or, different parts of the country all the time. So, and I'm good with that. But if I go on a vacation, I don't care what happens that week. I'm kind of the opposite of that. And I think, sometimes when you go after certain goals or things, or fun things, kind of keep an open mind sometimes and not have to. I know at the beginning I was saying you have to be very structured to get certain things done, which you do. But you may have other goals that are kind of like just kind of see how they kind of blossom, I guess you could say, and see which way they lead you. Because if, for instance, going on a vacation, maybe one of your goals for the year, and you're just trying to figure out how to do that financially, and I get those are certain goals that a lot of people really aim for. You may just want to be more open-minded to say, hey, I know I wanted to go to Hawaii, but I can't, but maybe I could just go to the Bahamas, something like in that nature. So anyways, that was just something else I thought I'd throw in. But yeah, be open-minded and don't beat yourself up either with these damn goals. A lot of times I think setting a lot of goals and not always getting your goals, you beat the shit out of yourself. And you know what, at the bottom of the line, this is it, the bottom line. No one gives a shit. No one. I think a lot of times people think we didn't get to our goals, or we're failing at our goals, or they're not just, they weren't what they were. No one else is looking, for the most part, unless you're married or your kids or you're talking constantly about your goals. Don't feel like that's like a burden you're taking on. That's life. Don't beat yourself up. They're just things you want to accomplish in your life. They may or may not be accomplished, but you know what? I always say it's the ride along the way. That's what is the most important. I always say that, in my opinion. You know, a lot of times, even every movie I made, everything I did, at the end of the day, after the premiere and everything, I remember one time, one of my premieres of my films, I was downtown Chicago. We had a premiere, and I left, and all my friends, everybody thought I was so busy that I had no time for them. I actually just went to the hotel. I was exhausted anyways that night by myself, and everybody went to dinner, and we already had a huge wrap party. There was like 250 people there. And what was amazing is, like, at the end of that, it's like it's over, that goal. And then I didn't really know what to do next to a certain degree, besides, you know, make other movies. But it was interesting that I was like, I just took time to think about it, like, what did I really get out of this goal, making another film? You know, I know I'm going to try to make my money with distribution and all those things, but it was like the journey along the way was what it was really all about. It wasn't just about completing it. Completing it was huge, because most people, I believe, don't actually follow through it, you know, usually with what they really want to do. And I did it a couple times. It exhausted me, but I did it. But sometimes that's just something you got to think about. It's the journey. You are learning along the way. Don't think because you didn't succeed at a certain goal or didn't turn out the way you thought it would that you failed. You're never failing at that. You actually are way more better off, I think, a lot of times than you think you are. All right, I'm going to wrap it up there. Thanks for listening in. And so we're on, I have a YouTube page. I have a Twitter, LinkedIn, and I have that program, Mastering Self-Confidence, out there as well. So if you get a chance, connect with me. I'm going to wrap it up there. All right. Take care, and I wish you nothing but the best. And if you're traveling, safe travels.